Good morning. Good morning. It is Road to Recovery. And once again, it is time for another Monday morning chat. Hello and good morning and happy November. And I know if I have any newcomers today that are participating in No Not November, welcome. Welcome aboard. We like you here. I'm here to support all of the people who are going through porn addiction and porn addiction recovery. So, the purpose of this channel, and specifically for the Monday morning chat, is to allow anybody who wants to come in and discuss topics surrounding porn addiction and porn addiction recovery, that they have a chance to interact with me, because normally I'm just making videos and there's no interaction, but here you actually get a chance to talk with me. I also have an interview. If you can check out the interviews on my channel, I have the capability of performing interviews, and I frequently interview those who are working in the porn addiction recovery space. If you would like to participate on that, drop me a line at road to recovery11 at yahoo.com. Again, that's road, the number two, recovery11 at yahoo.com. And that allows you to be able to talk about your porn addiction story and what recovery was like for you. So if I don't have any chatters coming on this morning, I always usually get one or two. But if I don't, I'll just talk about the things that I want to talk about. And I have a lot to talk about. The following week was a pretty busy week for me. There was a lot of things that were happening that I had to actively monitor, including several sponsees that I've taken on who are really struggling with their porn addiction recovery. Specifically, I have one sponsee who goes to 0 to 100, so to speak, and from being triggered to acting out. There's no slow down time for this individual. He just immediately jumps into it. And as I've recently been talking about middle circles, and I've always stated that every single reason by which we act out, in other words, acting out is, masturbating to pornography. Every single time we act out, it's because of a middle circle behavior. In other words, there's some sort of edgy thing that you're participating in, whether it's sexual fantasy inside of your mind, or you're looking at something, whether it's on TV or whatever, or you see something out in your environment that gets the trigger going, right? Outer circle behaviors don't do that, middle circle behaviors do. And it's the middle circle that we have to pay attention to most. And in a situation where you have a person that immediately goes into autopilot, because the triggering and the craving is so ingrained inside of their personality, that sometimes the cognitive behavior therapy tactics, while good, they're less likely to work on a person who is really bad off. I mean, who basically just can't control themselves. Normally, I would say that for those individuals, the people who are really hard up, that cannot control anything and have no way of hitting the brakes, that those people should really go to an in-care facility or inpatient facility. Going to an inpatient facility, what they do is they kind of lock you down. You're stuck inside of a facility, and no one can interact with you from the outside world to take away all of your devices. And you're typically there for usually 30 days, sometimes longer, sometimes 6 weeks. That's a fantastic facility for a person like that to be in, because they're separated from all of their vices. And what it does is, after a period of time, usually 15 to 30 days, your ability to be able to slow down starts to get better. You can get a little bit more control. It doesn't mean that the addiction goes away. It just means, because now of the dynamics of the dopamine production inside of your brain, that you'll have the capacity to at least fight it. In absence of doing that, because not everybody has the capacity to be able to afford to be able to go into a clinic, or they don't have the wherewithal to be able to do it. Usually, when you're doing that, you're hitting rock bottom. So, if you don't have the capacity to do that, you have to take some really severe steps. And one of the severe steps that you can do is literally removing technology from your universe as much as possible. And you don't have to do it forever. And I strongly believe this. The whole point of doing that is not to be abstaining from everything that can trigger you. That's not a healthy long term solution. What you're trying to accomplish is just get 30 days under your belt to get that ball rolling, right? And if you can get that 30 days underneath your belt, if you can actually establish routines in your life to where you're staying away from the addiction and staying away from the triggers, then you can start building onto that, because the idea is that you want to be in the middle circle. You really do want to be in the middle circle. Avoidance is not the long-term solution. What you want to be able to do is be able to manage that, but you can only manage that when you can actually take a little bit of control. And the best thing you can possibly do at that point is learn how to control, which means practicing mindfulness, being able to put strategies in place and execute those strategies when triggers happen. If you are incapable of doing that, it's best to avoid middle circle behaviors altogether. So that's one strategy, but I tell you something, I would prefer that if an individual had the financial means of being able to afford it, that they do the inpatient facility instead. If they can't afford the inpatient facility, you really got to buckle down, man. You've got to be all in at that point. So that means going to support groups. That means getting yourself either a sponsor or a therapist that can be there at a moment's notice, and at least having one other individual that you can talk to. Sometimes that could be a sponsor, sometimes it could be a recovery buddy, but just having a person that you can just pick up the phone at a moment's notice and say, listen, I think I'm about to get triggered, or I just have been triggered. I just need to talk to somebody real quick. When you can do that, it really works in your favor for the recovery process. And it's not as good as being in a facility, but it's the next best thing. All right. I'm going to keep things relatively quick this morning because unfortunately I got a few things I got to take care of on my end at 10 o'clock. So, um, what else we're going to talk about this morning? Oh, it's No Nut November. I've seen lots of sites and accounts on social media have been rebranding that to No Porn November. I'm gonna keep calling it No Nut November because I think it accurately describes what it is. By the way, I'm not. I invite everybody from NoFap community. I invite the NNNs onto the channel. I don't necessarily support that, like being anti-sex or anti-masturbation is necessarily the way to go, but I do believe that what groups like um, gosh, I've got a mind blank going on. I don't know. Gary Wilson. Thank you. When Gary Wilson was alive and he was talking about this, that he really was getting to the bottom of what was going on inside of the human mind. That the release of dopamine at the time that we ejaculate, it creates bonded memories with everything that we do at the time that we ejaculate. So the minutes before, the minutes after, everything gets locked into our memory and we get caught into that cycle. That if you can regulate the dopamine inside of your brain by, stopping the masturbation for a little while, right? This is not a long-term thing. I'm not anti-masturbation, but if you can just stop for a little while, 30 days, man, do anything for 30 days, dude. Stop masturbating for 30 days. If you can stop masturbating for 30 days, you've gone a long way. That means that you proved to yourself that you could do it. If you can just do that, as you've just heard me talking about, managing the addiction actually gets easier at that point. It does. It manifests in your mind. You have a little bit more control, and then you can start really taking hold of some of these other tactics that are out there. But if you can just stop for 30 days, just stop masturbating, find something else to do. If you just do that for 30 days, there's going to be a lot of improvements in your life. Now, I don't necessarily sign on to the some of the crazy effects that are listed inside of NoFap, or some of the people that practice No Nut November say, I don't believe in the superpowers. But if you can consider control over your life a superpower, yes, I am in favor of that. I do believe that happens because I felt it myself. So do take that seriously. If you want to participate in No Nut November, go for it, man. I think it's a great challenge. I think everybody should do it, whether you have an addictive problem or not. Learning how to be able to better manage your personal life, especially in a day of online instantaneously available pornography. Heck, if you can manage that and stay away from that, you're doing good in the world. I would say that if you can extend that, no social media, stay away from online YouTube services and TikTok services and anything else that's giving you a little bit of a dopamine hit. If you can avoid gaming, right? Hey, I've just given you three things that are dopamine producing and slightly addictive. If you can just stay away from those things from a totality, like just staying away from those things, your life's going to be better off really well. You're going to find that you actually are able to exert more control over your life, have greater depth of control over your emotions, and also be able to experience emotions a little bit better. So, when we talk about, sadness, happiness, those sorts of things, dopamine behaviors, things that are constantly producing dopamine in your mind, after a while, they start leveling off your emotional stability, not in a good way. So you're less likely to be able to feel things, right? Um, when you start to get off of the dopamine producing behaviors, all of a sudden, the things that were let's just say, indicative of emotional responses, right? When you actually experience those things, when you see that comedy and you can just sit there and belly laugh, but like really feel it, that ability to have that deep sense of engagement with the emotion is stronger when you're off of those dopamine behaviors. And I'll take that one to the grave, man. That's not a superpower. That's just the natural effects of constantly doping yourself all the time with um, neurotransmitter. All right. What else do we want to talk about this morning? We had somebody reach out to me. We had some questions that came on through. I had posted some questions and I got some emails. And what was the first one? Yeah, no, this one was a good one. Road I've been off and on my addiction. It seems like I can never get on a consistent cycle. Are there any things that I can do that will help me stay consistent in my recovery? Yeah. Um, well, from that description, I don't know what your specific problem is, like how you're managing your recovery. I will say the things that I preach in this channel are try to find a recovery group, SLAA, SAA. I started a PAA group where I'm at. Um, any of those three programs they welcome porn addicts, and you'll find a loving and supportive community for your recovery effort. So that's a great start. Um, Getting a personal friend, whether you're getting it from a recovery group or from your friend circle or a family member, getting somebody that you can talk to and communicate to on a regular basis. That very important. And you can factor in, if you get into a 12-step room, if you can get a sponsor, that's fantastic. Um, One of the other things that you can do is get yourself a therapist and see that therapist on a regular basis. So don't skip on them. If you're doing them every single week early in recovery, just do it. Just keep going to that therapist on a regular basis. Have a plan. That's my number one thing, is have a plan. So if you wrote this message to me and you did not go in with a recovery plan, you're setting yourself up for failure. We cannot go through recovery white knuckling. If you just go in and say, okay, this is simple, I just don't have to do this one thing, you're missing the point. You really are missing the point. It's a much larger process. Recovery is a much larger process. It's getting to know your weaknesses. And what we do, especially in 12-step programs early on, is we use these worksheets to kind of fill out psychologically where we're the most vulnerable. And so, what you discover by doing that is that there's lots of vulnerabilities in your life, not just simply to the triggers that you're getting from your porn addiction, but you might be going through some other shit in your life that's contributing to that addiction. Some may even say the underlying problem that's on top of the addiction. Now, I'm not going to say that's your specific problem because every addiction manifests a little bit differently, but it's something you should really explore. All right, let's see, what were the other questions. We'll skip that one. Oh, And this person was asking about what groups can I go to. Yeah, so I just mentioned 12-step groups. I also will say, um, SMART is an organization that deals with addictions, and they use a different methodology. I 100% support them. I've seen SMART in action before. It's a great system. If you have a SMART facility that's near you, SMART is the acronym. Go for them as well. Um, there are other organizations that I don't even cover on my channel. Some of them are, religious affiliated. It's not my personal forte, but they're out there. I would suggest also, and if you have some strong uh, recovery like facilities, sometimes they use meditation or yoga. One of the organizations that's near me does active weekly meditations, and it's geared a lot for addicts. It's a great space to be able to go into and be able to not only set up community with other people that are suffering through an addiction, but also to learn the mechanics of, like, whether it's online meditation, yoga, um, CBT strategies. If you can find a facility that's nearby you that can use that, fantastic. And here's the trick: a lot of those are free. Like, you can go out there and not have to pay a dime for many of these things that are out there. So look around, man. Sometimes just looking is the good start. Just go out and look and see what's available out there to you. All right. Oh, and I wanted to add, because somebody brought this up this morning on X. A lot of these you can access online. You don't have necessarily have to go physically there. Now, I personally favor that you go to in person to a group. And if you're feeling embarrassed about it, overcome that, because what happens is that that group that you're inside, they at one point felt embarrassed and ashamed as well. You know, walking into a group where you're face to face with people, all of those people in that room have had to deal with embarrassment and shame. So you're actually going into a room where people get you. They really do. And so you don't have to feel ashamed at all. Now, you still might feel a sense of, I don't want to go into this room with other people that have this issue. You know what? You're no better off than they are. Like, every single person inside of that room at some point, at some level, had to deal with their addiction. And many of them that are there, they're long timers. In other words, they've overcome their addictive cravings, and they still keep going back because part of their spiritual guidance is helping other people that are afflicted with the same issues. My sponsor, he's been over his addiction for like 20 some odd years, and he kept going back to rooms just to help out other people. God bless him, right? And that's what I do. I go back to those rooms, and I'm not acting out, but I am there as part of my spiritual guidance, is helping others. And all that spiritual advice comes for free, man. All that spiritual advice comes for free. All right. Ooh, I'm getting close. I gotta beat feet. Do we have any other questions I can cover before I get out of here? Nope. Yeah, I covered that one last week. Yeah, I think we're good to go. So, yeah, if you have any questions for me, if there's something you'd like me to cover on a Monday morning chat, feel free to email me, or go out to my X account, Road to Recovery 11, and you can go ahead and DM me. I frequently check my DMs in the morning. Um, that's all I got to say this morning. So I hope that you have a successful November. Please stay on that road to recovery. Road to recovery is signing off. Have a good day.